Wir hören heute Stimmen aus zwei Regionen, die seit Jahrzehnten von Konflikt, Gewalt und Leid geprägt sind. Aus Israel und aus Gaza. Wir hören von Menschen, die nicht als Politiker hier sind, nicht als Vertreter von Regierungen, sondern als Menschen mit einer eigenen Geschichte, mit eigenen Verlusten, mit eigenen Hoffnungen und auch mit eigenen Ängsten. Und deswegen freue ich mich sehr, dass Shay Dahsevsky aus Israel und Hamza Howidy aus Gaza heute bei uns sind. Und dass Dr. Verena Buser die Veranstaltung moderiert. Frau Dr. Buser ist seit 1. Juli meine Stellvertreterin in der Funktion der Beauftragten sozusagen. Und ich bin sehr dankbar, dass sie die Funktion übernommen hat. Und ich glaube, damit haben wir auch eine wirklich tolle Besetzung hingekriegt. Seit dem 7. Oktober 2023, seit dem schlimmsten antisemitischen Massaker seit der Shoah, hat sich die Lage dramatisch verändert. In Israel leben Hunderttausende in der ständigen Bedrohung durch Raketen, Entführung und Terror. Und in Gaza erleben unzählige Familien Zerstörung, Hunger, Tod. Und gleichzeitig ist dieser Tag wie viele andere Tage in diesem Konflikt nicht das Ende der Geschichte, sondern Teil einer langen Kette von Schmerz und Gegenschmerz. Diese Veranstaltung heißt Voices from Israel and Gaza. Das klingt einfach, aber es ist etwas Außergewöhnliches, Menschen miteinander ins Gespräch zu bringen, die von den Realitäten ihrer Heimat fast unüberwindbar getrennt sind. In einer Zeit, in der es oft nur um Schuldzuweisungen, um schnelle Schlagzeilen und um harte Fronten geht, wagen wir hier heute etwas anderes. Es ist nicht die erste Veranstaltung dieser Art, die die beiden machen, aber sie ist zum ersten Mal hier. Wir hören zu. Zuhören heißt nicht, allem zuzustimmen. Es heißt, bereit zu sein, die Perspektive eines anderen Menschen zu sehen, ohne die eigene Wahrheit aufzugeben. Für mich als Landesbeauftragter ist klar, das Existenzrecht Israel steht nicht zur Debatte. Der Terror der Hamas ist zu verurteilen, immer und ohne Relativierung. Aber ebenso klar ist, Menschlichkeit endet nicht an einer Grenze. Das Leid unschuldiger Zivilisten darf nicht unsichtbar werden. Wir können den Konflikt hier heute nicht lösen. Lösten wir ihn, würden wir mit Sicherheit den Nobelpreis bekommen. Aber wir können ein Zeichen setzen, dass es möglich ist, in einem Raum zu sitzen, sich gegenseitig zuzuhören, Respekt zu zeigen, selbst wenn die eigenen Wunden tief sind. Vielleicht ist genau das auch ein Anfang, der im Kleinen zeigt, was im Großen so schwer erscheint. Ich bin sehr dankbar, dass Shay aus Berlin gekommen ist. Hamza hat den weiten Weg aus Nordrhein-Westfalen auf sich genommen, um extra zu dieser Veranstaltung herzukommen. Und ich danke euch für euren Mut und eure Offenheit. Ich danke Ihnen allen, dass Sie heute hier sind, nicht nur als Zuschauer, sondern als Teil einer Haltung. Wir lassen uns nicht entzweien. Wir hören zu, auch wenn es schwer ist. In dem Sinne werde ich gleich die Moderation an Verena Buser übergeben, nicht ohne einen Werbeblock. Wir können Sie gerne auch künftig direkt einladen. Das ist gar kein Problem. Dazu liegen hier vorne am Ausgang, da wo die Kugelschreiber stehen, Zettel, wo, wenn Sie möchten, Sie Ihre E-Mail-Adresse eintragen können und Ihren Namen. Dann da ist auch die notwendige Datenschutzerklärung drauf. Und dann werden wir Sie sehr gerne in unseren Verteiler aufnehmen, in der Hoffnung, dass Sie dann an anderen Veranstaltungen auch teilnehmen werden. Insofern herzlichen Dank Ihnen allen und ich übergebe das Podium an dich, Verena.
I'd like to welcome you, Hamza, and Shay, thanks for coming. And I'm very happy that you are here. As Andreas mentioned earlier, Shay Dahsevsky, he's from Israel, from Rishon LeZion. And I think actually you are a cook, but after 7th of October, like so many of us, you became an activist. You were also an activist before 7th of October. But we will hear about this in some minutes more about this. And Shay, he founded a project, it's called I'm from Israel, Ask Me Anything, and he's going regularly to universities and colleges to open up the possibility to speak with students, but also with the pro-Palestinian side. And Hamza He's also, you are also an activist, also already before 7th of October from Gaza. You left Gaza before 7th of October in August 2023. And yes, about your journey, Odyssey to Germany, we will hear in some minutes also more about this. So I would like to ask the first question we said together earlier and talked about this. Can you tell me, both of you, how you experienced the day of the 7th of October 2023 and how impacted it your personal life?
Start.
Okay. Should I start? Okay, hi. Yeah, first of all, thank you for coming, and maybe I first expand about myself before I come to the 7th of October. So, yeah, as Verena said, my name is Shay Dahsevsky. I came to Berlin, to Germany, Berlin, around 8 years ago. And I actually am not a politician. I'm just, I came here and I got a job in a culinary world, and I actually was active maybe 15 years ago. Throughout my youth, I was very active in the left movement, peace movement, socialist movement in Israel, fighting a lot for peace. And at some point, I had a fatigue, and I think I just wanted to escape the problems of the Middle East and the conflict, and I arrived to Germany, and I wasn't active for many years. I wanted to just forget about it, but the conflict, not just 7th of October, but the whole conflict actually spilled into Europe, and I think especially into Germany and Berlin. So that is a little bit my journey. Specifically about 7th of October, it's been a while, but of course I will not forget that the same day I had to work, but I woke up and saw the videos, and I was very much exposed. I did not know how to filter it correctly, and I saw a lot of videos, and it was quite horrible, of course, as you probably all know. Also, I lived in this area for 4 years. I studied cinema a long time ago, so the videos were very, I watched to also see if there's people I know, and I had a lot of friends who still live there, so that was this day, and the days after, calling, checking what's going on. And at the same time, I was shocked at what I saw in Germany and Berlin and Europe, but people next to me in my neighborhood were celebrating the massacre, and I knew that something is wrong. And I think that's where I understood that my life will not be the same. I thought I'm alone in this opinion, and obviously today it's pretty much a topic for a lot of Jewish people, and especially and also Israelis. And as Verena said, a lot of people became active, so am I. At first, just collecting information. That's another project that I'm part of it. All the propaganda we see in the street, Hamas propaganda, anti-Semitic propaganda, and trying to work with police and LKA and politicians. Sadly, not successful. I can talk about it later, but it's quite despairing to see the reaction to that, because for me it's like a monster that just grows. And at the same time, I thought to do something positive, so very quickly I started a project that was later helped financed by the Senate, that called I'm from Israel, Ask Me Anything. So we went as Israelis to mainly universities and had a table. Maybe you heard about this project, but had like a table and just tried to talk to people. Most of the time it was okay, but obviously we experienced a lot of hate. And I thought, okay, how can we expand? And I think this takes me back to maybe my roots of my activism, is to work with Palestinians who want to break this pattern of violence and find a different way, peaceful way. So that's how I got to work with Hamza. And that's how I got to do what I do now and be here. It is probably our, I think 8, as I counted, 8 event we had. And we have, I think, 10 more at least planned. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. So yes, before going to October, I would also like, as Shay did, to give an intro, because I think the context matters of how we ended up there. So yes, I was born and raised in Gaza as a normal Palestinian, and had to live with this conflict, with all the difficulties that come with, which I was not that part of. Let's say I was active in local politics, you can say, in Gaza, something which was anti-regime, anti-Hamas, and calling for economical benefits for the society, because like any authoritarian regime, we were 2 layers. One is the wealthy elite of Hamas members, supporters, X and Y and Z, and you have the remaining society who was just struggling to live. And I was part of this society until we started a movement that was supposed to make changes in Gaza. It was called the We Want to Live movement in 2019, when we, for the first time in Gaza, protested against Hamas in northern Gaza, in Jabalia. And we were successful to an extent until I got arrested with hundreds of people at one day, and I had to go through not a nice experience, let's say, in Hamas jails, until I was released after paying a bribe, and kept my head down for a few years until in June, a few months before the war, in June, we decided to protest again, because we could have no longer afford the situation, how we were living, and all the economical difficulties, the oppression by Hamas, and also the expectation, the expectation that we had in Gaza that something bad is going to happen soon, because it was a pattern. Once you have too much internal problems in Gaza, we take it and export it to Israel, and then you have the international donations coming, and problem solved. So we expected that something is going to happen in Gaza, maybe not to such scale, maybe not to such extent, but yeah, that was the reason why we protested again. And I ended up being arrested again, and being a convicted criminal under Hamas's law, until I spent some weeks in their jails, until my family managed to pay me a bribe, get me out. And yeah, that was the moment in August when I decided to leave, because I realized that if I'm gonna do that more, my family wouldn't be able to pay the bribe. I can't physically, mentally pay the price for that, and I just lost hope. I lost hope in making any change. I lost hope in attracting people outside of Gaza, that there is a problem happening, that people in Gaza are trying to tell you a message. But it was extremely hard to reach out to the people, whether we are talking about the Arab states or even the European states. And I'm pretty sure most of you did not hear of the protests when it happened in 2019 or in 2023, pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. I am pretty sure that many of you didn't. So that was the reason, actually, why we left, because we realized that no one cares. No one cares when it's a Palestinian problem, let's say. So I left and made my way to Greece, from Turkey to Greece, through the immigration boats, until I ended up in a refugee camp in Samos Island in Greece. And yeah, a few weeks, and then October the 7th happened while I was in this refugee camp, and I was in a refugee camp with thousands of people who made their way from Gaza to Greece. And I started seeing the videos back then, and I didn't believe it. I didn't believe it at the beginning, and I said to myself, it's just Israeli propaganda exaggerating what Hamas did, or Palestinian propaganda trying to show Hamas more powerful than they are. But a few hours later, I realized that no, it happened actually, and maybe more than what we are seeing in the videos, because everyone in the camp was talking to his family and checking on them. Some people who had relatives inside, some people who were just worried about their friends, family, X and Y and Z, and I was one of them. I started talking to my family, and yeah, I remember what my mother told me, that we should leave. She told me that on October 7th, maybe at 1 p.m. or 2 p.m., because they realized that Hamas opened the gates of hell to Gaza, that something bad is gonna happen. And yeah, we had enough experiences with Israel to see how Israel would respond to such an event. Hamas kidnapped the Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit in 2006. We saw how Israel responded. We saw also how Israel responded in Beirut to Hezbollah. So not to imagine more than 250 hostages and the killing of over than 1,200 people, mostly civilians. So yes, we started talking to our families to just pack and leave. It's not our fight. We are not responsible for what's happening. So just leave and leave them deal with their situation. And I started to think of a way to express my anger, my feelings, because on the one hand, I couldn't accept what happened, and on the other hand, I was also worried about what will happen to my people, because I knew that civilians will be harmed in all cases. They will pay the price for what Hamas did. And I remember the exact moment when I decided to just go online and be active again, when I saw the videos of some people who were celebrating around the car while Hamas was taking a hostage, and understood that some people will take this video and tell you that there is 2 million terrorists in Gaza, there is 2 million Hamas people, that people wouldn't understand the complex realities about Gaza. That if some people will try to raise their voice and tell you that no, we condemn what Hamas did, or that we oppose it, it's a death sentence. No, I personally don't recommend it to anyone in Gaza, because I know how it will end up. I saw how just one guy in Gaza, Ziad Abu Hayya, who was just evacuating from one place to another, and on camera he just said one sentence: save us from Hamas before the Jews. And yeah, it was enough reason for Hamas to kill him. And he wasn't the first one, he wasn't the 10th. He just joins the list of hundreds whom Hamas killed after October the 7th. And another one is a friend of mine, who also, Howidy Nasser Rabai, who doesn't have any idea about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, who was just born there and trying to live with this situation, and decided to do the crime of protesting against Hamas and saying, we want to stop the war, we don't want Hamas in the future. Yeah, he was tortured to death because of this. And the video of his body is terrifying, because you can tell of what happened to this guy before. So I understood that people will misunderstand the situation in Gaza, that they think that all the Palestinians back what Hamas did. So someone from the outside should be, or attempt to try to be to the voice of the moderate people in Gaza, to say that on the one hand, yes, we condemn what Hamas did, we oppose it, and we will stand against it until the end. Also, on the other hand, we are standing for the civilians in Gaza, we are standing for the civilian families who are being harmed because of this war, also for the hostages and their families. And that was actually part of what I did, which triggered some radicals to me, which was writing an article for the release of the hostages. So yeah, trying to hold two truths, or multiple truths actually at the same time. And that was the situation when I knew actually about Shay's project. I'm from Israel, ask me anything. And yeah, that was the idea of better than making two tables, one for a Palestinian and one for an Israeli, and make this football match separation or black and white separation. Let's make just one table, and you can ask the two people, because I'm pretty sure that people from the outside would always have a question for a Palestinian and an Israeli, and we started with this, I think, almost 1 year ago. And yeah, we are continuing with it. On the aim, we understand that maybe solving the conflict is beyond our hands, but we can also try to downsize this scale of violence, hatred, and how it reflects also in Germany when it comes to extremism, anti-Semitism, and sometimes sense of anti-Palestinianism in some right-wingers. Yep, that's it.
But I think what is more or less, thank you. So what I think is more or less unique about you both is that you challenge the narrative of what means pro-Palestinian and what means to be pro-Israel. Because actually people think these two sides cannot come together. And especially you, what means pro-Palestinian, because I think many pro-Palestinians don't get it. But maybe you can tell us more about how your activism impacts your personal life, your life in Germany, your life in Germany.
You start.
So the question is how it
Impacts your life.
Your activism.
I can answer.
activism?
Yes.
You want to start?
Yeah. Okay, so for me, maybe the main reason what I'm trying to do in collaboration with Shay is for the Western audience or the Western observance of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is to redefine what pro-Palestinian means, because unfortunately that was misused, misunderstood by too many parts, whether we are talking about the Europe or the US or even outside of that. The definition of a pro-Palestinian, unfortunately, was misused by parts of the radical left, if one can say, to portray a Palestinian who will always back the quote-unquote freedom fighter, the same freedom fighter who did the massacre of October the 7th, the same freedom fighter who is killing Palestinians on a daily basis in Gaza, and the one who started this war at the end of the day. And to redefine for them that you can be pro-Palestinian and you can defend the people of Gaza without backing the quote-unquote freedom fighters. To redefine for them that you can be pro-Palestinian without being an anti-Semite. And they, yeah, surprise, you can do both. And yes, because unfortunately it's also shameful for us when we see people doing that in our names, because at the end of the day you will be defined as a pro-Palestinian doing anti-Semitic stuff in the street. And this is something I think large parts of the Palestinians don't stand for and oppose this thing. So we are trying to redefine this and also to somehow stand against, you can say, parts of the right wing or the extreme right wing in Germany who have also a sense of anti-Palestinianism. For them, if you are a Palestinian, you are a terrorist until you prove otherwise. Sometimes you can't even prove that, so it's hard to deal with it, but still someone has to stand for that and to say that, yes, I can be pro-Palestinian, I can actually stand for the release of the hostages, I can stand for the end of the war, and that wouldn't affect my Palestinian identity. That doesn't make me less Palestinian or quote-unquote sell out, as some unfortunately are trying to promote. And yeah, to tell them that with this separation thing, with this black and white scenario that you are trying to do between the Palestinian and Israeli societies, you are adding to the conflict, not trying to stop it or downsize the scale of violence or even downsize the scale of the conflict itself. You are adding to it. And no matter what team, what party you are joining, if you continue doing this way, you are even harming the society that you claim to defend for, that you claim to stand for, by adding to this conflict, by adding more hatred to it. Yep.
Yeah, I agree with everything. I would just add maybe that, as I said before, we're not politicians, and I don't think we can change the rules or tell people what to do, but definitely I think also there's a lot of things that we both agree that should not be promoted, and the list is very long, but just small example. For example, when I hear that people want to import intifada into Germany or Europe, I think the sane voices should be very clear that they should stand against it, no matter what side you are. This is not something that, I mean, I would consider as a survivor of this period. This is a very violent period that people just take as a game and want to play with this and promote it, and then also the radicalism when people don't agree, which I think is a very dangerous thing for democracy in Germany, that I see it a lot, that okay, it affects obviously a lot of Israelis and Jewish people, Jewish voices that support Israel because they would be considered Zionists, which became like a kind of only like a dirty word and involved a lot of conspiracy, but it obviously affects other people. And I think even in the room, there's a lot of people who are not Israeli and not Jews, and they were called Zionists, like it's a dirty word, and pretty much everyone who disagree. Yeah, this is just one example, but I see it like as a tool, and I think Hamza probably also was called Zionist. Like it's got no this monster of hate that I see on the street and translate to events and calls and demonstrations, and is very dangerous for everyone, not just for Jews.
So, and Shay, I would like to ask you, because you said earlier that you have been not anti-Zionist maybe, but a radical left in Israel, and that it changed a little. Can you maybe tell us something about this?
Yeah. I think, I mean, and it's maybe not necessarily happened on 7th of October, because I remember after 7th of October, I thought I would actually participate in demonstration because, okay, the topic is now on the table, and there will be probably, again, there will be a war, but against the war, there will be peace demonstration. For me, that's how it is in Israel, yeah? We don't go on the street asking for more violence when there's a war, yeah? The peace movement was against the war, and it seems like, yeah, so I was still a little bit naive, but at some point when I understood that people celebrate 7th of October, I knew that something is wrong. And I must say, like, as much as I had criticism of Israel, I think that there was some points, for example, the photo of, Shani Luke, when she was taken in a car and celebrated. And for me, I understood that even though I don't agree with everything that Israel does, I do think that it made me very much connected to Israel suddenly, to the values, it was just clear understanding that at least I need to be honest about that, about the effects of indoctrination, and we do have to talk about this element of violence that exists in both societies. But I think I was a little bit too naive, and yeah, that's maybe the change. I don't want to define myself now in any place of right wing or left wing. I don't consider myself in any party, but I think the kind of like the thought of like what I noticed in the left even before, that it's a little bit, you lose your individuality. So it's like, especially today, yeah, there's like the ideology is just more than anything, and once I felt that I'm not part of it, in the last event, there was they said that I'm not, I was part of the left, but then the left left me. And I felt like the left kicked me out, not just left me, like made me an enemy, just because I want peace, just because I condemned 7th of October. So I had to shift. It was necessary for me, and to find a new home, to a new way. Yeah.
Yes, you are one of two at least who have this problem here. Yes. Yes.
For example.
Sorry?
We'll talk about that later.
Talk about this later. Yes. So, Hamza, you said earlier, I won't recommend to anybody to speak out in Gaza against Hamas.
Yes.
But I have the impression that you, also in the Palestinian diaspora, it's a little bit, actually, you would say, there are more Palestinians in the diaspora who speak out against Hamas and so on, because at least this terror and massacres are not okay. But there are some in the US and everywhere, but not so much. How comes? What do you think? How does this come?
I think there is multiple reasons for that. That depends on each one of them. I mean, part of them, I would say they do still, maybe they are in the US, but they do
still have families inside, whether we are talking about Gaza, also the West Bank, because radicalism is not limited to Gaza. This is one thing. The other reason I would say that some of them are afraid of being used, because unfortunately, sometimes the criticism of Hamas is being used even against the guy who spoke about Hamas himself. They are afraid that, okay, they might take my criticism for Hamas, publish it online all over the world, but when I start to criticize the Israeli government or the violence by the settlers, they wouldn't listen to me. So I don't want to be portrayed in this tokenized idea of just a self-hating Palestinian. I want to be fully listened to, and there is also people who, maybe that's at least for the current period, who find it hard, let's say, to criticize Hamas in such a period. I'm not saying it's okay or not, but they find it hard because of the current situation in Gaza. Because, I mean, if you looked at Gaza right now, there is no longer Gaza actually, and as much as October the 7th was hard for Israel, also Gaza remains a bigger victim here. I mean, human toll, civilian infrastructure toll, suffering, starvation. What happened to those people during the past 2 years is not easy, I would say, and it brings a lot with it. Too much silence, too much of radicalism to some parts. After seeing that, who would think of quote-unquote revenge, and also an unimaginable trauma that I have no idea how we are going to overcome after this war ends. How the trauma of this generation will be overcome. Those people saw something that we cannot even imagine during the past 2 years. And even when I talk to them, the mentality and the discourse of the people in Gaza completely changed from what I knew before the war, what they care about, what they are looking for, how they talk about things, and what life means to them right now, how easy it became to talk about someone who lost his life. As if someone who's just buying a packet of cigarettes right now. It's extremely dangerous. So I would say there is multiple reasons for that. But I would also say that anyone who fails to condemn October the 7th already morally failed and does not worth listening to.
So then I would like to ask both of you, how does, at the moment, the situation in Germany, how does anti-Semitism impact you both? Because Hamza, or both of you, actually when you have your events, you can only speak under police protection, for example.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, actually also me and also Hamza, we do other things, not just this project. And I mean, obviously we experience anti-Semitism everywhere. We don't need to do political activity to see anti-Semitism. It's enough to step out of the house and go to work or open like the WhatsApp of the community of the activism, and pretty much every day there is some graffiti or sticker or some posts or by politician or activist or demos where people obviously shout genocidal slogans, but also even in more extreme cases, people who call for killing of Jews. That happened in Berlin, and after more than 20 months, I'm pretty frustrated that nothing really happened. We know who are those people. The police know who are those people, and they get maybe some fines, but not much happening. And online, it's crazy what's going on, and yeah, it's hard, like to see people who call for killing of Jews and then see them on the street on my way to work on the bus. So that is anti-Semitism for me. The other thing is like when we do the activity, and I noticed that it increased, more people like specifically mark us, yeah? And it's funny you asked this because like yesterday I made Anzeige because somebody online that saw the event said, oh, we need to contact my employee for something, you know, called her followers to do that. And Hamza also had experience with people demonstrating. I don't know how to call it, anti-Semitism or anti-Zionism. That's what I said before. It's for me kind of like a hate element in the movement that marks everyone that see things different. And yeah, and that's what we have to go through. It's almost like clear that this will happen at some point if you want to be, if you want to express your opinions. And furthermore, when I did the project I'm From Israel, Ask Me Anything, and I work with students organizations, and many of them said they're afraid to do that themselves because they are in the universities, so they have to live with the consequence if they are open about their support of Israel or just say they have connection to Israel. They will suffer from the consequence throughout their studies. So they were very happy that I came there and I suffered this for 2 days and I could leave. So yeah, so I'm very fearful for the future, thinking that this became acceptable and for some people even the moral thing to do.
Yeah, for me, I would say that I'm actually happy today that I'm doing the first event maybe without police protection, because I started to get the sense before that I'm doing a bad thing inside those events, that I must have this police protection, even doing it in hidden places in libraries or whatever. So I had the feeling that why I'm hiding what I'm doing. I'm not doing something that I'm ashamed of. So thankfully today we are more open about doing the event without the police protection. And I think this should be normalized actually. This should be the case all the time. Because as I said, we are not doing something bad or something to be ashamed of. Actually, we should be proud of what we are doing here. The second thing I would say about anti-Semitism, I may not be Jewish, I may not be an Israeli, I may not be, let's say, the perfect person to ask about such a thing, but it's also important for me to stand against such a thing, because at the end of the day, as Shay just said, it's morally an obligation to stand against racism or hatred or including anti-Semitism. So yes, for sure, I would stand against it. And I would also stand against those who use my country's name or my country's conflict or a question and hide behind it to spread their anti-Semitism, to use the Palestinian cause as a door to hide behind and then claim that your anti-Semite thoughts are just your way to defend Palestinians, because this is something I don't want to see. So yes, this is another part why I am standing against anti-Semitism. And it happens, unfortunately, in many events that people cannot understand that. I mean, Shay just spoke about the last event I did in Heidelberg, and people had to protest against it. People had to boycott what a Palestinian is doing inside an event. So the boycott BDS is now not limited to Israelis, it's now including Gazans. So yes, I had to experience that, and I had to experience that even during this event, like simple things that happens to friends and colleagues that I know, Jewish and Israelis. One of them had a kippah on his head, and I told Shay previously that I had all the time to keep an eye on him because I felt that something happened. I told him, just take it off for now. And I felt that something bad is gonna happen because of what people said or what people shouted, to the extent that yes, it happens unfortunately in Germany, and I'm trying to be partially standing against it, as I am also standing against the racism towards Palestinians or towards Muslims. So yes, I would say it's part of my job.
So did you take the kippah off?
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Okay, I have two last questions before I open it to the audience. So the first question is to you, Hamza.
Sure.
So let's imagine you would meet Benjamin Netanyahu today, and you had three questions for him, or 2 or 3 advices. What would you tell him?
Does it have to be questions?
No.
I would say that yeah, I mean, there is lots of questions and lots of things that should be told, not only to Netanyahu, but also to the government that he represents at the end of the day, because he represents a government. And yeah, many questions should be asked for him about a war that he's leading right now, that no one knows where it's gonna end. No one knows where is the point where Netanyahu would say, okay, I'm done with Hamas, I'm done with everything, now I'm just gonna go back to Israel and let the Gazans build what was destroyed from their city. No one knows. No one knows where is this point for Netanyahu and his government. Not to mention that maybe they just don't have a point. Maybe it's just for new elections to come and he can run. So yes, I think this is a question that should be asked. Another question that should be asked for Netanyahu and the government, that they said in December, I remember, in 2023, and also in February 2024, that they are working on a plan for the day after the war in Gaza, which was not published until now. So I'm curious to see it, if there was also a plan, because what he's repeating right now on media is that we're gonna finish Hamas, get back the hostages, and then do the Trump plan. This is all what he could have thought of for the past 2 years. So yeah, I think this is also a question, and also a third question, that how he can deal with what he did to Gaza and still want to do more actually of it, how he can see such a scale of suffering that cannot be described and still insist that this war should continue, how he can continue such a war when literally the families of hostages are protesting against him, when they are telling him that we want this to stop, and no, he thinks that he knows better for he is disagreeing with Palestinians, with the Israelis, with the hostages families, not only the hostages families, but also civilian Israelis who are protesting against him each Saturday in Tel Aviv. So he thinks that he knows better than anyone else, and he is insisting on continuing these wars. Yeah, the last question would be like, when is he gonna step out? Because yeah, we got bored of seeing him. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, and the question for you, Shay, what would you, the same question but only for Friedrich Merz?
It's a hard question. I mean, I would just encourage him to make more pressure to condition both sides, and I think it's not just for him, I think it's for many leaders, that I think start to take some side and some steps, but they're very one-sided, and I feel like it's not for solving the problem, but it's for maybe demographic or political reason, to come out looking moral or satisfying some fraction in the politics, while they can have power to really actually help Israelis and Palestinians. So not just, for example, yeah, what happened with the arm embargo, that I'm not against, but I would say it should have done with some conditions to really pressure to change the situation, or recognizing Palestinian state, again, with some condition for both sides that is maybe harder to say, to be involved in that you have a stand, but not just do something one-sided and leave it. I think, I don't think it's really a solution. And it does push like the war to continue in many ways.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to, yes, ask you, or yes, please let us know your questions for Hamza and Shay. It's open now.
She wants to ask,
to the audience.
Hello, my name is Howidy. I'm an activist in the German Israeli Association, and I really I'm really impressed by your activity that you do together, because it's very, very singular. And I didn't like the question, what would you say to Netanyahu? I would have liked the question, what would you say to Hamas? Because it's on them to finish this thing. But I have a lot of questions. I'm so sorry, Hamza.
Yeah, go ahead, no, I'm totally
I talk a lot with Israelis, you know.
Yeah.
I know what they say. But first of all, one question about your time in Gaza. How many people would you call civilians, and how many would be Hamas? Can you say just approximate? I know that you cannot. That's the first one. How did you get out? Is it easy as a Gaza before the war started to get out? And then how many activists like you from Palestine do you know? I had more questions.
You don't have to answer all of them.
Yeah, I will try to answer all of them. So the first question about how many people in Gaza are Hamas and how many people are civilians. So in Gaza, Hamas is not like only a militia like the one in Lebanon, like Hezbollah. Hamas in Gaza was a government and as a militia for 18 periods. So this government had lots of institutions that come with the government. It had teachers, it had doctors, it had people working in the ministries, mostly civilian things, but at the end of the day, it's the government of Hamas. So I'm not sure if the question how many militias for Hamas, fighters meaning, or just whoever worked with Hamas. But because if you are going to ask whoever worked with Hamas, most of Gaza, because it was the government. It was the government for 19 years, and it's not an option. It's not that you have to, you can't choose between two governments. It's just one, and if you want to live, you have to work with it at the end of the day. And yeah, even the Arab states who consider Hamas, some of them consider Hamas as a terrorist, worked with this government. Qatar, Egypt, even the Gulf states, even Israel, even if it was indirectly, they had to deal with this government at the end of the day. So yes, this is one thing. Militias thing, I think this is not my specialty. Like, I'm not a military expert. I think there was some polls or expectations about 60,000, 40,000. I'm not sure about it. And the second question, how I left Gaza. So people in Gaza normally leave through the Rafah crossing to Egypt, which can be done if you have the money to bribe the Egyptians, let's say. If you can bribe, it wouldn't be hard. My father used to leave Gaza at least once a year because of his work, so you can do it, but you have to bribe the Egyptians. And yeah, this bribe sometimes can be managed. Like when I left, it was $500, but in other times, like during the war, it became 5,000 to 10,000 for each person. So this is like saying impossible for the people in Gaza. No one can manage such a money. And I think there is some activists who are like me. Maybe we are not enough, I would say, but yeah, we are working on making that bigger. And also I'm working on a different project called Realign for Palestine, which is like to build an umbrella for those moderate activists who stand for Palestine, but not not as a quote-unquote freedom fighter narrative or pro-armed resistance narrative, but someone who is, or some people who are trying to build something for the Palestinians. Yep, that's it.
Ja, hallo, wir sind hier von Demokratie Berlin und was uns aufgefallen ist, ist, dass bei den pro-palästinensischen Demonstrationen immer wieder bewusst...
You maybe switch to English or it's not good?
Can you talk Spanish?
Yes. Okay.
Dass immer wieder Nazi-Vergleiche bewusst gemacht werden. Und zwar würde mich einmal interessieren, wie fühlt sich Shay dabei, wenn bewusst Nazi-Vergleiche, und zwar auch in bewusster Verbindung mit dem Holocaust, getätigt werden. Und was mich von Hamza interessieren würde, ist, was lernen Kinder in Gaza über deutsche Geschichte, über den Holocaust, über den Zweiten Weltkrieg?
Okay, so shall I translate for you, or do you
Yes.
understand the question?
Translate for me,
So,
please.
okay, the first question to Shay is that in the so-called pro-Palestinian demonstration, especially in Berlin, there are many comparisons to Nazi and the Holocaust and so on. How do you feel with this? And to Hamza, what do children in Gaza learn about the Holocaust, say, in the Second World War? Yes?
I think it's quite clear what the, yeah, that is very hard to hear, that people compare Israelis to Nazis. I don't have a really word for that. I mean, it's really degrading the word to nothing. I mean, just to scream at everyone who disagree a Nazi is, I mean, obviously it hurts the feelings of Jewish people. Most of the people I know, this Relativierung of the term and other Holocaust related terms. I have no other words than just terrible. I mean, that's something we have to kind of like just see every day, every demo, hear it around us. I mean, a part of that is very, it's kind of like very intellectually lazy. I think people don't understand, maybe because they didn't meet enough Jewish people or Israelis, or we're just not loud enough. But yeah, I find it a terrible comparison. I can understand the criticism, obviously, but it went beyond criticism. It's just politicized and used as just another word with somebody who doesn't disagree. Yeah, it's not the only word, but obviously, if specifically you talk about this, it's not nice to see that. And obviously, usually when you talk to people that already have this mindset, they're not open to debate. I think that used many times to just cancel the other person's opinion, not get into debate, to look more superiorly moral or something like this. And yeah, just to push voices aside.
Yeah, I think for the Holocaust thing, this is also a problem with our curriculum, the school books in Palestine and Israel, that we try in a way or another, whether we do that intentionally or not to give sympathy to the other side. If you went to a Palestinian book, you wouldn't find much about you wouldn't actually find anything about the Holocaust. Maybe it will be slightly mentioned that like the Allies were fighting the Nazis and Hitler did the Holocaust and killed some Jews, and that's it, and we move on from that. And yeah, I also in the Israeli books, like not speaking about Palestinian trauma or 1948 or whatever. So it's somehow this way of making our school books is making it harder for the societies to have sympathy to the other one. I myself, I was ignorant, to be honest, about the Holocaust and about the Jews to very recent, actually, age. And yeah, I had to teach myself, actually. I went to Poland, to Warsaw, to Auschwitz, and to learn something about it. But yeah, I think maybe as a step for the future, it should be mentioned because people in Palestine, Gaza should also have to understand the context of where half at least of those Jews came to Palestine, Israel, and why did they came, and yeah, I think once people have sympathy to the other side, it makes it way easier for them to understand other aspects of the conflict.
So I have a question, unfortunately, about when I speak with like young progressive Israelis or people from Jewish diaspora, there's a bit of a sense of despair with like politics in Israel, and like there's been like feels like since the last 3 years of the peace process and like the second Intifada, there's been like a shift in Israeli politics towards the right and a bit of a loss in hope into the peace process, and coupled with that with like demographics of like religious people having more children, like it seems like Israel is getting locked into a far right government that does not want peace anymore, because on the one hand, anything is not possible, and they don't even try to bring a solution. And so, like, I think, like, a lot of like Israeli commentators and like even like military officials say, like, we achieved all our military objectives in Gaza a year ago. Why are we still bombing Gaza now, right? And so, like, is there like a hope for like another movement in Israel which will push for peace process? Because if the Israeli government is not pushing for this, then like it will not happen. There needs to be an adult in the room that drives this process, right? So who will that be? And maybe like also like a similar question comes up about like Palestinian civil society, and like is there like also a hope for like a movement coming also from Hamza or from Spain that will also promote like an alternate narrative for like moving for peace?
I can answer.
I think you said people are desperate, and that's very true. It's hard to see any positive change lately after so long, but I'm also not so much connected to the politics in Israel. It's also very much changing. I look sometime at the polls, and actually most people seems to be against the government still. So I also hope the next election things will be different. And sadly, obviously we have the extreme crazy fanatics that even if they're not big part, they obviously do a lot of damage, and it feels like some of them want to do some collective suicide for some crazy ideas, and obviously most people that at least I know are against it, but it's hard to explain it to people that at least we want peace. Most people, I think, if you give a solution that is really can be accepted, we can go back to times where it was a normal thing in Israel we just need to go back to this place where, also if we have a partner for peace, but if there's something on the table that is, I think still most people would choose that than any military solutions. So a part of this, what I see lately is also, the cost. I don't compare, but the mental cost of people who come back from the war, suicide rates are very high. The economic situation is not easy, so it cannot be a long-term solution for the majority of Israelis. And I hope there will be. It is a big movement, but I hope it will be strong enough, so at least in the next election, from my side, there would be some change. And I am not affiliated to any party, but I think it will be very healthy to see some change.
The question was about the Palestinian civil society movements. Unfortunately, about this, I would have to be a bit pessimistic, because in Gaza we don't have any right now. People are focusing on trying to survive at least. And in the West Bank, there is some small groups, not unfortunately making a big effect, let's say, in Palestinian politics. but still it matters. I think for these movements to work better, they would have to work under better circumstances, under better situation, because the situation is extremely hard right now in Gaza and also the West Bank. It's not that easy. This is one thing, and the other thing about peace, I would have to disagree a little bit actually with Shay, because yeah, I mean, talking about peace, the current government of Israel doesn't have any vision for peace. Peace is not discussed actually between Palestinians and Israelis by this government, and yeah, there is no vision, unfortunately, either one state, two states, 10 states, like no one even talks about it. This is the issue. Maybe in the Palestinian side, yes, they are still corrupt and have lots of problems talking about the Palestinian Authority, but yeah, I mean, at least they are talking about it, or at least calling for it. Maybe, I think at the end of the day, peace wouldn't come, or a resolution between Palestinians and Israelis wouldn't come immediately after this war, because both societies are traumatized from each other. It's not the time for it, I would say. But maybe if there was enough pushing from the forces outside Palestine and Israel, there will be kind of a change in the two governments, and to bring new governments who are more interested in reaching a resolution. And this push, and it has to come from the outside, because yeah, those two governments are completely not interested, and the government must come from Europe, from the Arab states, from Saudi Arabia, who wants to normalize with Israel, from even from countries like Germany, to reach a resolution, not in a way to harm any party, but to tell them that even in Europe we are sick of your conflict. Just find a resolution for this.
Would it be fair to say that the government
Excuse me?
is just having a plan for efficiency now?
Excuse me, I think we have some more questions.
No.
We can speak later. Yes. Here was a question.
Hi, my name is Anja. I'm just an ordinary girl from Berlin, and I put on my German glasses, so excuse me when I'm using stupid comparisons, especially now comes the Nazi comparison, which is very favorite in this country, of course, but nevertheless, here it comes. So when I compare the situation in Germany in let's say 43 or 44, I don't think that anyone had a bigger plan for what is coming after the war while fighting the war. So my question is, how could a government or country, or how do you see a difference between the Allies fighting Nazis, 1943, 44, being able to see the future after having completely destroyed the Nazis, Adolf Hitler having to completely unconditional surrender, which Hamas still refuses. So how to expect a proper laid out solution when you don't even know how this will end and when it will end. So from my point of view, as I say, as a German, I don't see how can we expect something like that when I don't have ever heard of any other war where this was demanded by the victim's side. So this is my problem I have with this. Yes, I would love if anyone could come up, and I know the Saudis and blah, 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 but I think this is for, let's just focus on this one. And I think from my personal point of view, who has invested a lot of time in this Nazi time, there's no alternative for letting the perpetrators know that you lost and the society who supported you. So German civilian casualties was way up through the hill, and I think we had to make this crisis. And yeah, that's what I think. And I would like to ask Herrn Lüttner, if this is okay, how he thinks that our politicians are fueling with their talking points, and our main media like Tagesschau are fueling this Jew hatred, and I'm so shocked that I don't see an uproar in all of our elites and calling out people like Frau von der Tann and you name them, and I never imagined something like that would happen, and I would have to witness that. And I'm not Jewish, I don't care, but this is heartbreaking for me, and I don't know where the politicians are and the people who should stand up for all of us, and they all fail, and I don't understand why. Why? Because you are food, and not you personally, you know, I know what you are dealing with, but how can you explain to me how your colleagues are failing all of us so tremendously? I don't understand.
Okay, but do you want to answer?
Yeah, I would like actually, because I think that unfortunately, you are isolating yourself too much with the thinking of Germany, the Nazis, and then to take this and project it to Gaza, to compare the Nazis who were in Germany in 1948 to the people in Gaza, to compare them to people who have been being bombed for the past 2 years, have been starved and died of death and died of starvation. To talk about more than 60,000, 70,000 people getting killed and a devastating war, and then to take this and to compare it with the Nazis, I think this is shameful, unfortunately, to hear. And as I don't accept to take this projection and to call the Israelis the Nazis, I would also not accept it to my society, and I think this is unrespectful. This is one thing. And the other thing about the complete surrender, unfortunately, because looking at Gaza's situation, in my opinion at least, Hamas was destroyed, whether we liked it or not. And I mean, if you looked at Gaza's situation right now, how many top leaders of Hamas's military leadership can you name? No one in the room can name actually 2 leaders, because there isn't. The top leadership, Yahya Sinwar, Mohammed Sinwar, Ad-Daif, Abu Ubaida, X and Y and Z, they were all killed. And right now we are talking about small terrorists who were actually recruited during the war, and this is a scale that will always be unfortunately recycled. People who see parts of their families getting killed, then Hamas misleads them and joins them to the movement, and then we have the cycle again. And even in Germany, with the fighting of the Nazis, the Allies did not go after each Nazi in his home and finish this. There was a point that they said, okay, we eliminated the top leadership, we eliminated the intermediate, part of the intermediate, actually not all of it, and then they started to work on a day after.
They surrendered. They gave up. The Germans gave up.
Yes.
So the Hamas just has to stop.
And the question, even if they did not stop, does that mean to continue killing the Palestinian people in Gaza?
So I would suggest we have some time after the event that you can go into a personal discussion so that we can have some more questions here. So, but I think it's important at least to hear each other. We don't have to agree.
So can I add something small? I think that's maybe a lot of the problems that we face. As I said, we cannot give solutions to everything, but obviously there's more than one reality that we have to see, and I'm not saying who is right or who is wrong, but first of all, there was a plan, and Germany was very much invested after the war, and to become from ruins to one of the most successful probably country in Europe. And we can maybe talk when it should be done in Gaza, but I think the earliest possible is very important. It have to be, whatever you think is the Ziel point, how the end point. This is, at some point we also have to talk about investing in the construction of Gaza, and if it's possible already today, we should do that for a couple of reasons. First of all, also, if you want to compare, at some point the Germans understood they don't want the war anymore. No? Most Germans, after the war...
Yes, after the war, we had to surrender. We had to be completely destroyed.
Okay, but that's...
I compare this with...
Yeah, but if you look at the situation now in Gaza, I don't know, like I don't have all the news from Gaza, but I think that is already right now very, very crucial point to help the people who, and they're quite loud now, louder than I think any time in the last 20 years, that are against Hamas and want alternative, to not lose them by ignoring them, to not lose them by just seeing one side, but to see them and to invest as much as possible and to create, hopefully in the future, some kind of trust. Last time, for example, I remember talking about the demonstration that happened in Gaza under bombardment and the fear of Gazans to be executed by Hamas. And it seems like even compared to the demonstration in the West, like this is the best partner we can have in Israel, those people in Gaza. So we have to also, at some time, and I think already now and yesterday, start to think about alternative. So,
yeah, if I may just add one last point to make it clear.
Then Andreas.
Yeah, okay, just one last point. I think it's also important to differentiate the ideology of, even if we are going to make the, I think, the false comparative, the ideology of a Nazi is not the same ideology of an Islamist. An Islamist or a jihadist would never surrender. Unfortunately, this is their ideology. I was one of those who say that Hamas should surrender 1.5 years, actually. And I said that at the beginning of the war, but this is the mentality of a jihadist. He prefers to be killed than to surrender. So I would say that we should also keep that in mind while making the comparisons, while asking for things to be done.
Now, Andreas?
I tried to answer the question, but let me say a few words before. Hamza and Shay, I'm really happy you're here and you share your perspectives, but I have to admit that I do not agree with you on many things, with both of you. But it's important that we talk to each other. I think if for the last 30 years, 25 years, millions and millions and millions of money went into Gaza, to support Gaza, to build up Gaza. And what Hamas did was digging tunnels and destroying infrastructure. So Hamas used your people actually as hostage. But if you say now, of course we cannot continue to kill the people in Gaza. But what comes, for me, we're not talking about this here today. Responsible for all of this is Hamas. Hamas started this. Hamas started this with terror on October 7th. And of course Hamas could surrender. Yes and no. This is not the ideology of a jihadist. So they rather will kill their whole people. That's what the Hamas leader said. Yeah, rather to kill their own people instead of surrendering. But if what you said, the leadership of Hamas has been eliminated, and there are only like some people have been captured to Hamas. So why no one in Gaza is trying to give hints for releasing the hostages? We don't hear about the hostages at all. And so this is my question also for you. This war could be stopped, could end immediately if the hostages are free and Hamas surrender. If then the Israeli government would continue, I would be the first one to criticize it. Yeah? But the main goal was get the hostages back and surrender. It needs to be stopped. It needs to be stopped. The terror needs to be stopped, which has been going on for so long. You said you lived through Intifada. And it's not nice if you can't go to a playground to play because your parents are afraid of sending you to a playground. It's not good that you cannot enter without fear a bus because you don't know if the bus explodes on the way. So all of this must stop. And so this is also why I don't agree with you if you would say this question, what you would say to Friedrich Merz. I am not in favor of recognizing a Palestinian state right now. I'm not. Because it could be seen as a reward to Hamas after October 7th. The message could be, here, you just started terror, you just make a big mess, and you will be rewarded with your own state. No, it needs to be after negotiating. And I don't know with whom you can negotiate on the other side. Yeah, who are the ones of the Palestinian side with whom I could negotiate to find a peaceful solution? And trying to answer your question, I don't know. I don't know why everyone is fearful to say clearly that what we read, I mean, we are in a propaganda war. Of course we are in a propaganda war. Every war is also a propaganda war, and Israel lost the propaganda war, 100%. And you see that, I never thought that a chancellor from a Christian Democratic Union would attack what we call the Dahsevsky. Yeah? I was never imagined. Could have imagined from other parties, but no, not from Christian Democrats. But you see that in the federal parliament we do have a problem right now because everyone is part of a victim of the propaganda war. And the pressure is pretty high. If you say something which is pro-Israel, you are always a Likudnik. Yeah? If you say something which is pro-Israel, you are a supporter of, that's what they tell you, yeah? You're a supporter of a genocidal government. And I can tell you a lot of more words I daily have in my messages. So I don't know why no one, I don't know how the term is in English, but I don't know if this kind of politicians we have right now as Entschuldigung, wenn ich es auf Deutsch sage, und Entschuldigung, wenn es ein bisschen unförmlich rüberkommt, aber ich bin nicht so ganz der Diplomat. Ich finde momentan, keiner hat den Arsch in der Hose mal zu sagen, dass klar und deutlich ist. Ja, und zu sagen, Leute, kann doch nicht sein, dass wir hier aufhören, Waffen zu liefern in Israel. Die Staatsräson ist dann plötzlich mal in den Wind geschossen, das interessiert uns dann plötzlich überhaupt nicht mehr. Und irgendwie hat man auch das Gefühl, dass jeden Tag was anderes erzählt wird. Der Außenminister ist in Israel, der war zur gleichen Zeit in Israel, als ich da war. Also er ist mir nachgeflogen, nur zurück. Und der weigert sich mit den Angehörigen der Geiseln zu reden. Er hat mit den Angehörigen der deutschen Geiseln geredet. Es gab eine Bitte von allen Familien, von dem Hostage-Forum, dass sie mit dem deutschen Außenminister reden können. Dafür hat der Außenminister keine Zeit gehabt. Entschuldigung, ich verstehe das nicht. Und warum macht man nicht mehr Druck zum Beispiel auf Katar, die ja ganz offensichtlich Einfluss haben? Nein. Wir sind immer noch, wir pampern das katarische Regime immer noch. Ja, ich auch. Wir pampern das katarische Regime immer noch, weil wir möglicherweise irgendwas von denen brauchen, weil die haben über viele Jahre hinweg die Terroristen finanziert. Ja, und beim Iran sind wir alle Himmel aus den Wolken gefallen. Ja, war das denn jetzt möglicherweise völkerrechtlich in Ordnung oder war das nicht in Ordnung? Weil eigentlich muss die Bombe ja schon abgeflogen sein, bevor ich irgendwelche Gegenmaßnahmen treffen kann. Also wenn das Völkerrecht nicht mehr da ist, um Menschen zu schützen, sondern nur noch um irgendwelche Phantomdiskussionen zu führen, dann braucht man das tatsächlich nicht. Oder man muss es machen. Insofern kann ich Ihnen nicht sagen, warum das Politiker gerade nicht hinkriegen. Und gleichzeitig, und das ist mir wichtig, gleichzeitig sehen, was den Menschen in Gaza passiert. Natürlich sieht man das Leid in Gaza. And I was in New Ost, yeah? And the people in New Ost told me, our children have been killed. But it doesn't make it better if we kill their children. Yes, I understand it. But it must be stopped somehow, and not with, walking around a little bit, trying to find this side or that side. No, be clear in all of that. I don't know if it's answering the question, but
Okay, so one step in between. We agree that we can disagree. And I'll give the word to Hamza.
I think it's more interesting when we have this because we are not robots at the end of the day. So I did not understand all of the German thing, but all good. But I think you were criticizing Qatar, which I agree with. This the only thing I can tell out of it, because yes, I want a pressure on them, because at the end of the day, as much as I call for this war to end, not only today but yesterday, but I also don't want to see Hamas in my future or to have a new government. So this is to be agreed on. Also for the rewarding terrorism argument, or for giving Hamas an argument. Another argument that can be answered against this is that those countries who said we're going to recognize a Palestinian state said we have the condition of disarming Hamas, releasing the hostages and giving it to the Palestinian Authority. So for them, they say that we are rewarding the moderation, not the terrorism. This is one thing. The other thing is that, unfortunately, this is how many states were formed, whether we are talking about the US, even if we talked about the Israel. In 1947, Haganah and they were, according to the British mandate, they were terrorists, according to the British mandate, and even to the US. Menachem Begin was, the seventh prime minister was, according to them, also a terrorist. But this is not my issue. I think the main focus right now would be on stopping the war and building something for the Gazans. The symbolic recognitions are not something that interests me, to be honest, in the meantime. And the thing about Gazans helping the hostages, I mean, I would say that if a Gazan helped a hostage, we wouldn't read that on hidden news, because this is more of a security thing. This would endanger him. And if we thought, for example, about the incident when the Israeli army managed to release the 4 hostages from Nusayrat market, I think they could never actually release them without someone who's giving information on the ground, because they were literally hidden in a market, and in a very dense market that I know. So I think even with the bodies of the dead hostages, the current groups, the Gazan groups, Abu Shabab and other groups, helped the Israeli army to locate more than 10 bodies. The third thing about the responsibility, because for sure Hamas bears the first and the most responsibility for what's happening. They started it, they refused to surrender, they want to maximize the scale of suffering in Gaza so they can pressure Israel more. But at the same day, I would also say that doesn't mean that the Israeli government is accepted from responsibility. That is not a green light to do anything, because at the end of the day, we all agree that Hamas is a terrorist militia and should be treated as a terrorist militia. But when we talk about Israel or the government, we are talking about a democratic state. So the values, the standards, and even the criticism is different. And I always like to keep it, because I would always like to differentiate what makes someone a terrorist and what makes a democratic state a democratic state. That's why it should have some responsibility. I think this is all for what I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you. I think we have 2 or 3 last questions now.
First of all, I do fully agree to what Anna said, and I think the main problem was in the past and is still today that from outside comes no solution, from outside comes fooling all the conflict details. And I think it was a very good question, what you Palestinian children learn in school. What school books do they have? Ask Maya. What is in the school books? What is the content? It's fooling, terrorist thinking. The people who are doing suicide bombers, they are martyrs. They are heroes. And as long as this thinking is provided by school books coming from the United Nations organization, financed by the European Union, by the way, also by Germany, as long we can't say we are part of any solution, because there are terrorist thinking in these areas. It comes from this education. And the second question that has to be solved, with whom should you negotiate? That's the main question. With Mr. Abbas, who is not accepted in Gaza, who is not accepted by the people in the West Bank, who never could tell us what is his position. The last election, I think, was 20 years ago, and everyone is speaking to him. And our foreign minister just some days before, and they call him president. President of what? Never existed any Palestinian state. Never. West Bank was part of Jordan. Gaza was part of Egypt. And today's solution can't be to give it back. But who should get it? Both. They speak different languages in Gaza and in the West Bank. And everyone here who doesn't know that says, oh, we need a Palestinian state and we have to accept it. No, that's not the solution. That can't be a solution. And a last moment, if I am allowed, I was in Israel just at the time when the attacks were to Iran and back, of course. And we wanted to meet, and as we are here in the parliamentary building, I can mention it, we wanted to meet Shay, a former colleague in the Knesset. He was one of the people who wanted to have an understanding with the people on the other side of the border. In Sderot, he lived in Gaza, in the kibbutz nearby. At the day of the attack, he was blocked in his shelter and freed 20 hours after the attack by the IDF. But in the neighbor house, his son was found dead, killed by the attackers. And that is something which shows why, when we met the mayor of Sderot some weeks ago, Maya asked him, are the people in Sderot and surroundings, are they still friends of the people on the other side in Gaza? And they said, when we heard how they were glorifying the attacks of 7 October, for a long, long time, this will be over. And so we have to build up trust, of course, but first of all, we have to change in the Palestinian side, perhaps a little bit in Israel, maybe, the education of the people and of the youth. Otherwise, we won't have a solution which brings peace to the region.
Yeah. Can I add something?
Go ahead.
Where you want to?
No, all good. I will do after.
Yeah, I'm afraid we're going to a big debate, and since we don't have much time, I think sometimes I hear very utopistic ideas and solutions, and to be honest, and I may be playing the devil advocate because I do want total peaceful solution and no jihad or this kind of indoctrination. But I tell you, maybe more as Israeli, maybe we have to understand that that's how we're gonna live forever. Maybe. We just need to hopefully downscale it and not, so I think like expecting to one side to do maximum so we get to a solution. I'm not against it, but at the same time we have to see a bigger picture and not push aside the moderates and help them as much as possible, and not just say all the time that in the other side, yes, maybe right now who's control is not the right partner, but it doesn't mean there is no partner somewhere. And we cannot miss this opportunity, because for us it's our life. Like as Israeli, I'm talking about as, and I do live here, but I have family there. So it has to be some way out of it that is more productive. And sadly, and I can, for example, say in Germany, the education is great. Right. You won't find the same things, but you will still have terror attacks here, right? It's not just the education system.
Not only, no.
Sadly, it is indoctrination that is not just for Palestine that exists, that is fuels hate. So I wish we can have a maximum solution with maximum demands, but if we want to continue live without this, we also have to make some compromise.
Yeah, I don't think I have lots to add, because I do acknowledge that there is for sure a problem with our educational system. The same way, for example, if you went to the Israeli school books, you wouldn't find a teaching about 1948 or what happened to Palestinians back then. Also, there is, I think, more radicalism in our books than the Israeli ones. This is a problem that should be acknowledged, maybe not in very radical way, like to find a page that tells you go and kill X and Y and Z, but we still have radicalism in these books that should be changed, and that was maybe part of the vision that I spoke about previously, about de-radicalization programs and re-examining the educational system, not only the educational system, but also the religious discourse, because we are religious societies, so it's easy to manipulate the society with this discourse, and it goes to multiple aspects in the society. About the lack of partner for peace, I mean, Abbas is not that favorable person to anyone in Palestine. I mean, he has been sitting there for too long. But at the end of the day, it's a status quo that we have to deal with, unfortunately, whether we like it or not. We should pressure Abbas. Actually, we should have pressured Abbas before the war to do the elections. Now, I would say that it's hard to tell, because on the one hand, if you looked at Gaza, Netanyahu says, okay, I don't want Hamas, we agree, I don't want the Palestinian Authority, okay, fine, then who do you want? This is also a question that I should have asked to Netanyahu, because he doesn't answer. Still, there must be elections, maybe after an interim period in Gaza, but also to pressure on the current format of the political system in Israel, the Israeli government, because I can't also imagine Ben Gvir going to the West Bank with his peace proposal, or Smotrich doing this, or even Netanyahu, because as I said, there is even no discussion of this topic, and it's reasonable. I wouldn't expect it to come the day after the war. It will take some years, if not a generation, for the people to overcome what happened and to overcome the trauma that came with it. But I would say the sooner we start working on it, the better for the two societies.
Okay, do we have a last question?
I have a question.
So 2 short last questions.
For you, Hamza. In recent weeks, we saw a lot of images and pictures from Gaza by emaciated children, and there was a lot of talk about starvation and masturbation and intentional starvation. And then I saw pictures posted by Israeli, like State of Israel Instagram account and like Israeli media, showing pictures of the same children with his brother on site, was not that emaciated, that he had a disease and other children had diseases, and it got a bit confusing because there was information that was contrary. And my question to you is, do you have direct contact to people in Gaza who can tell you how many people are starving and why? Is this in certain areas? How is the price market? Like, is it expensive to buy? Is there even anything to buy?
That's not a short one.
There is no more.
People losing the aid?
Okay, I think he can answer now here.
Very short.
Because we want to have it short because
Okay, it was, I think, 2 quick questions. One, the case of this child, who I think I know the child you are talking about, who was moved to Italy to receive medical treatment. This specific case of this child, that he already, yes, had diseases and suffered because of it, and he was even moved to Italy to receive medical care. But I would say that, yes, the humanitarian situation, there is indeed starvation happening in Gaza from everyone I talk to there. And even the argument behind this child, like, it's not okay to starve him from food, it's not okay to starve him from medicine. So it doesn't make it anyhow better. And from the people, yes, it's extremely hard. And even when aid gets in, you have no police, no prison, no law enforcement power. So criminal gangs go and steal these aid trucks because they know they are never going to pay the price or have any consequences because there is no police. So they steal it, they resell it in the market at exaggerating prices that almost no one in Gaza can afford.
Okay, thank you very much. I would suggest that we come to a close now because it's 7:45. We have some food and some drinks left, and let's say maximum 1 hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour for discussions between us, under 4 eyes, under 6 or 8 eyes. And I would warmly like to thank you that you have been here. Thank you for disagreeing and agreeing and so on. And yeah, thanks for coming.